Welcome to Ryzen 8 Minis. This week we're talking about airbrushing, including a few of the niche products that have made my airbrushing journey a lot easier. Stay tuned and roll the footage. Over the course of this video, I want to explain what an airbrush actually is, how to use it, how to mix paint for it, how to clean it, and then at the end of the video, show you some tips and tricks which will hopefully make it a little bit easier. Stay tuned and let's get into it. Okay, so I've been painting for about 20 years, but I've really only been airbrushing for about 18 months or so. I was initially put off because I thought it'd be really expensive, but after doing a little bit of hunting around on eBay, I managed to get my first starter set, which was a decent compressor with a tank, and this little chap, which is a Badger 105, which is a siphon-fed airbrush, for 45 quid. That's less than a start collecting box, so it doesn't have to be a massive investment. I would say just pick up something cheap and get started. You can always upgrade it later, and then sell your old one on eBay. So I've since upgraded my airbrush to the much more exciting sounding Badger Patriot 105 Extreme Edition, which sounds really exciting but it's actually a little bit more mundane. Again, I'll explain about it later on. So I started with this one, and I've now upgraded to this one. And I can tell you that over the course of this time, the two of these airbrushes and I have had some moments together. We've learned a lot, we've overcome some obstacles, and I want to share some of that with you. So stick with me, and if you enjoy the video, consider subscribing and like the video down below. Cheers! Unless you learn it really well, airbrushing is essentially just a tool. It's another tool, just like a paintbrush, just like a sponge, just like a rolling pin, that you can use to add to your arsenal of things that are available to paint your miniatures. Some people are absolutely incredible at using airbrushes. They'll use airbrushes all the way through the entire process, from priming all the way through to fine detail work. I would definitely recommend checking out a chap called Angel Giraldez. If you don't know that miniature painter, look him up on YouTube. He's absolutely incredible and he uses airbrushes all the way through his work process. I am not that talented. I tend to use mine for priming miniatures and applying zenithal highlights. You can see the link just in the top right hand corner. Or I'll use it for base coating and applying tones and colours to miniatures, which will help enhance the shadow and increase the contrast on miniatures. You can see that in my video on how to paint the Recruit Edition, which again I'll link up in the top right hand corner. I have just started venturing into doing some more fine lining work for doing things like pre-shading on the recent Gundam miniature video I did, but I'm not very good, and yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. As you're watching this video, I'm going to assume you know what an airbrush actually is, so I'm not going to bother going over that. What I am going to do is show you how they work. So how do airbrushes work? They're pretty simple really. Every airbrush will connect up to a pressure source. That can either be a little tank, which is a portable thing which sits underneath, or in this case it's connected to a hose with a compressor on the bottom of it. That air feeds into the bottom of the airbrush, and then when you depress the trigger, it rushes along here, and as it rushes along, it pulls the paint, which is stored in this cup here, along through, out to the nozzle at the end, and then sprays it onto whatever surface you're applying it to. This is a gravity-fed airbrush. As the name suggests, I put paint in the top. Gravity causes the paint to run down into the airbrush itself, and then the air forces it out the front. The other type of airbrush I have is a siphon-fed airbrush. So what that means is the paint sits in this little cup here again, same as before, but as you can see, it is pulled up from underneath. So as the air rushes along here, it creates a vacuum in here which causes the paint to get pulled and pressed along through. Functionally, they behave the same way, but you generally need slightly more paint in these, so they're better for covering large amounts of models or large surfaces. You often see people who spray cars and use airbrushes will typically use siphon-fed airbrushes. There are a couple of other different types of airbrushes. You can get trigger-fed airbrushes and you can get side-fed airbrushes. I don't have either of those, so I'm not going to be talking about them in this video. Things that really affect how an airbrush works are needle size and air pressure. So needle size refers to the needle, which runs the whole length of the airbrush. You can see it here on this one here. How thick that needle is depends on how fine or broad your spray of airbrush is going to be. The thicker the diameter of the needle, the broader the spray of paint. So in this airbrush, the needle thickness is 0.3. In this one, it's 0.5. So this one's good for doing large coverage of wider areas, whereas this one's better for finer details. But needles can go much finer than this. I personally am not that talented with an airbrush, so I tend to avoid using the really fine airbrushes because they clog up much easier and they're just harder and more finicky to work with. I call this sort of a workhorse type airbrush, so it's It's good for most of the stuff I need to, but when it gets to really fine detail stuff, I'll tend to bail out and use a brush. The other thing that'll make a big difference to how your airbrush is set up is your airbrusher. Now I have my airbrush set at about 1.8 bar, which is about 35 psi, something like that. If I have it set much lower than that, then I tend to find that the paint just doesn't deliver properly, and I might get clogging as the paint isn't forced through the airbrush enough, or it just behaves slightly oddly. But conversely, if I have it set any higher than that, then while the paint delivers much faster and I can force larger pigment things through the airbrush easier, or slightly thicker paints through the airbrush easier, I do find that the extra air going through the airbrush dries the tip faster, so I get clogging that way. But I also get something called spider webbing. Now spider webbing is this, I'll show you. And that's called spider webbing. So when people talk about spider webbing, that's what they're talking about. What do you need if you're going to start airbrushing? Well, obviously, you need an airbrush. Other bits and pieces you'll need a compressor, like the one that I'm popping up now. Ideally, you don't need to, but ideally it makes your life easier if you get one with a tank, because it just stops the air compressor running all the time. Again, you don't need it, but it's helpful. What else will you use? You'll use airbrush thinner. Obviously, that is there to thin down the paints that you're putting through the airbrush. You don't have to use airbrush thinner, any old thinner will work. And thinner is just a mixture of deionized water and isopropyl alcohol. So you can make it your own if you need to. There's several people who've got recipes out there. Geek Gaming Scenics have got some good videos. Marco Frasoni on Not Just Mecha has some great videos about this too. And I'll probably make my own in due course. You'll see this bandied around quite a lot too. That's Airbrush Flow Improver. Very similar product to thinner, except it's got a retarder mixed into there as well, which lengthens the drying time of the airbrush, which just means you should run into less clogging issues with paints drying on the needle. The other thing you'll need is this. This is just deionized water. This is in a little tattoo bottle, I think they call them. I picked this off Amazon. It's really useful because it comes with a little nozzle, so you can squirt this into your airbrush cup. And just, it's a super useful little bottle. But that's just full of deionized water. I use deionized water because I live in the south of England, where the water is really hard. If you live somewhere, say, I don't know, around Manchester, or where the water comes through sandstone instead and has a really low hardness, that you don't need to do that, you can just use tap water. But if you live anywhere in the south of England where your water basically comes out of the tap looking like chalk, or you have limescale issues in your kettle and dishwasher and places like that, then I would definitely recommend using deionized water. It's not expensive, it costs a couple of quid for 5 litres. Other things that will make your life slightly easier are these things. This is just an airbrush cup. You use it for just dumping out all the old stuff when you're cleaning it up, or getting rid of the paint out your cup. These little guys, which are pipe cleaners, just really fine ones, which you can use for scrubbing out the inside. And my favourite little tool for airbrushes is this stuff, which is foaming airbrush cleaner. Absolutely amazing, and I'll talk about it when we get to the cleaning section, which is right at the end. Yeah, absolutely lifesaver, this stuff. The only other thing you might see people using are things like airbrushing booths. Again, really useful thing, particularly if you do a lot of your airbrushing in enclosed spaces, because it extracts everything out. Or you'll see old boxes. I actually use an old IKEA lid, like that one you'll see in lots of my videos. But I spray in a relatively well ventilated place in a separate office, which I don't mind getting paint a little bit around about the place. So yeah, that's what you need if you're going to airbrush. Anything else that I've missed off the list, drop it down in the comments below. And consider subscribing to the channel if you're finding this stuff useful. Paint quickly. Paint is just pigment suspended in medium. We've been over this before. So you can put any sort of paint you want through an airbrush as long as you thin it appropriately. The only time that different is if you're using something like, obviously, a textured paint, or something with very, very large pigments or metal flakes in it, like glitter paint or something odd like that. Potentially some cheap craft paints fall into that because the pigment size is very large, they can potentially clog your airbrush. But for the majority of mini painting stuff, they've all got very fine pigments. As long as you thin them properly, you can just run them straight through an airbrush. So here are some of the things I've run through my airbrush. All of this sort of stuff you can run straight through an airbrush. Before you do that, you need to thin it down to a similar consistency to something like the ink consistency, or maybe the high flow acrylic consistency, something slightly thicker than water, and I'll show you what that looks like now. So I'm just going to show you how to mix up some paint. I'm going to add 4 drops of my primer, and you can see the viscosity there, it's still pretty thick. So we're going to add some products to it. First one's Flow Improver, add 4 drops, same amount of thinner, and then we mix it all up. Now you can see the viscosity has improved a little bit, but it's still a bit thin for our liking, so we're just going to mix it up. This is what I mean by it's not an exact recipe. We're aiming something in the consistency of ink, and well, that looks pretty good actually. So you can see that moving around, and we're going to add it to our airbrush. and then we're going to have a quick test. It's all coming through nicely. So we're going to apply primer, that's what I'm going to need. We're just going to go classic Duncan style, 2 thin coats, and in between we're just going to use just the air from the airbrush to dry off the thin coats. There we go. Dry it off, apply another coat, and there we go. Now we've got to empty out the paint from the airbrush, give it a quick swill through. I'm actually using thinner here, and then dumping out that thinner into a container, swilling it through with water, and then adding some high flow acrylics from Golden, so I can add a zenithal highlight. And the cool thing about using zenithal highlights on these sort of things, you can apply the paint where you're gonna want the lighter tones. Just adds a bit of extra depth, a bit of extra contrast into that model. But you can also use the airbrush to really punch those white paints where you're gonna have any glow effects too, which is what I've just done there. Okay, so we've got a dirty airbrush that we've just used for priming and doing some zenithal highlights. Now we need to strip it down for the end of the day. Unfortunately, this is one of the worst things about airbrushing. There's a cleanup procedure. Some people say it's cathartic. I disagree, but it's a necessary chore anyway, otherwise you'll just have a clogged up dirty airbrush to use next time. It might work for a little while, but eventually you'll start running into issues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to clip it off. Here's a neat trick for you though. Definitely invest, if you're going to buy an airbrush, in a quick release valve. This makes cleaning and swapping airbrushes and just makes life a little bit easier. Pop. It's all done. It means you can keep your compressor on, and keep it charged up, but actually you can then do what you need to do with your airbrush without being attached and tethered to a hose. So there's several steps to this. What I would probably do is flush it through first. Purpose of that is just to flush as much of the paint through as we can. Then we're going to squeeze some thinners through it. Again, just sort of helping to loosen up any of that paint. Back into our little pot. Cool, and that's flushed through. One of the reasons I really like the Badger and the 105s, particularly the Extreme Edition, is they have this sort of non-stick coating over everything, which makes it super easy to wipe everything down and clean everything up. It's just another little well thought through ergonomic piece of design that really makes it a pleasure to use this airbrush. So once you've done that, all I would do is I will get out my secret weapon, and then this stuff is absolutely magnificent. It's called Foaming Airbrush Cleaner. It's a water-based airbrush cleaner, and if you can smell it, it smells pretty serious stuff. So now we're just going to give everything a bit of a wipe down using these little bottle brushes. I'm just going to make sure we've got off all the stuck little bits of paint from the insides. Then we're going to grab our needle and carefully, using a piece of tissue paper, just wipe along that needle. So once you've rinsed everything through, empty it out onto a piece of tissue paper, dry everything off, and then we're just going to reassemble it all. I'm not going to bother waffling over the top of this, but there is one piece of information you need to know. The piece which inserts into the back with the screw thread is spring-loaded, but in order to make it spring-loaded, there is a piece with a D shape on the end of it, which needs to be lined up. If you don't line that up, the trigger won't pull backwards or forwards. Other than that, it's fairly straightforward, just assemble it as you took it apart. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed the airbrushing video, you may be interested to check out the How to Paint the Recruit editions or the zenithal highlight videos which I mentioned before, maybe even the Gundam video too. All of which show me using airbrushes in sort of real life. Either way, I really appreciate everyone tuning in and subscribing to the channel. We've had over 80 subscribers this month. It means absolutely loads to me. So yeah, I just want to say thank you very much, and happy painting.